A lot has happened at KTM for the upcoming 2024 season. Most of it is centered around the new Bosch motor that was unveiled a few months ago, the Performance SX. KTM has taken this as a starting point to update various model series and give them a new character to a certain extent. Today we are taking a detailed look at some of these bikes. We are not doing this alone, but have Thomas from KTM at our side. A warm welcome to you. You are responsible for this development at KTM. That means you played a major role in the bikes that we are now looking at in detail and had an influence on them looking the way they do now. Before we take a look at one or two bikes, maybe you could tell us in general, what's it like when someone like you, in the development department, hears, okay, there's a new Bosch motor being developed. It's important for us. We want to do something with it. How do you approach this task? What is important to you?
For us, of course, the lightweight motor was just what we were looking for. We've been waiting for it. We've also known for a very long time that something new is coming from Bosch. We also worked closely with them. And yes, we've always asked ourselves, who doesn't need a lightweight e-bike? And that was also the pressure from the marketers on the one hand. Every retailer is familiar with this. The customer comes into the shop. Do you have one of those lightweight e-bikes? You need an answer for that. And in this case, that was actually a well-presented story, where we can say that we clearly see the customer group. We see exactly what the target is. In this case, it was relatively simple. There was very little discussion about it, because it was clear what we specifically wanted here.
Right, you guys have a lot of experience when it comes to dealing with Bosch motors. Was anything different with the Performance SX? Did you have to learn something new in some respects?
Well, we are constantly learning. There has been a lot of development in recent years, clearly. Of course, the weight issue was different here compared to the high-performance e-bikes until now. Weight was important there too, but not necessarily more important than quantity. And now it's about returning to our core competence, building a real lightweight bike. And that was a certain challenge, building a frame completely out of carbon. So, that was of course another level. And really paying attention to the weight of so many parts, attachments, or frame components, considering cable lengths, everything down to the smallest detail, putting it all on scales, so to speak.
To give people an idea, I don't know how many hours of work or how many years it takes for you to be finished with your concept, so that you can say, okay, yes, now we've got a concept in our minds, we can now actually produce it as a prototype.
Well, of course you have talks and discussions with Bosch in advance, but at this point you can't do much about it yet. You don't have any specific data in your hands. But as soon as we had the first 3D files, we actually dropped everything immediately and got started. And then it took almost 2 years. From the first brush stroke until you actually get the bike out of the production hall in Mattighofen. That's about 2 years. And yes, we mainly focused on our platform thinking here, on our down tube, on the battery mount, nut mount. That alone takes a year, so that you can say, okay, you've really perfected this now. It was then optimized for us. The battery removal, battery mounting, motor. And this platform is then cloned across the entire range of products.
Okay, let's take a look at what you've come up with. One of these innovations, the Macina Sport SX Prime, is right next to us. It's actually something entirely new because carbon as a material for a frame has now made its way into your trekking lineup. That hasn't been done in this combination before.
No, it hasn't been done before. Previously, in the non-motorized sector we made trekking bikes with carbon. And now we've come back to it to maintain a sporty image in the trekking sector, especially in the German market, in the German-speaking region, to continue cultivating this sporty image. And yes, we've really put together a bike here where we come in just under 17 kilos in full equipment as it stands here, to offer a real eye-catcher with full functionality.
Okay, yes, there is a Bosch drive in there. You can find that with other suppliers as well. But here, again, there are a few KTM-specific details. As always, you've come up with something unique for a few things.
Yes, so the core is, as I said, the downtube unit with the motor. We had a few internal discussions about that. Battery removal, fixed or not fixed, using Bosch's own mounting units or not. It was resolved relatively quickly. As with our Bosch Performance CX bikes, we also decided to make our own battery mount, and that the battery can be removed from the top. For us, that was simply the most user-friendly option. Of course, in terms of weight, we're talking about 50 to 70 grams going upwards. But we said, okay, we'll accept this weight increase even with these SX models to have very easy handling, especially when you can't charge the battery on the bike directly.
Do you make such decisions based on gut feeling? Do you listen to dealers, or is it more about the feedback from people who ride your bikes?
Well, in the bicycle industry, a lot is done based on gut feeling. But, of course, we receive feedback from dealers through our field representatives. We quickly gather additional input to verify what's really going on. And yes, it's always a crucial decision. The decision is never 100% clear. But, in the end, the advantage is that in our industry, in the bicycle sector, we can say, okay, we are a very small, compact team. I have the advantage of having very, very good people on my team. And it's basically like, all right, let's do this.
What exactly have you changed compared to the solution that Bosch initially offers, if you can share that?
Sure, I can. We don't make a big secret out of it, and we're proud of it. Yes, we've actually completely overhauled it, you could say. We've moved to fiber-reinforced plastic injection molded parts as the battery mount, which we manufacture here in Mattighofen, just around the corner. This allows you to simply take the battery and put it in or take it out without much fuss. Thanks to the very good experience with the CX models, which we've learned a lot from, we've made a technology transfer to the SX, although there was a clear further development here, but it actually doesn't have to do much with the original Bosch mount anymore.
How does it work? Can we take a look?
Yes, so it's relatively simple. We have a lock here, where you can just lock it. We take off the cover, which, as I mentioned, is a plastic cover, fiber reinforced. It also has a decal, an in-mold design, as you know from helmets, so that the decal cannot be peeled off. In this case, you don't see much. It's black matte, black glossy, but it's also available in different colors. So, the cover and the battery are protected against theft. Then, you just take it out, and that's it. It's a straightforward process. Only at first glance, of course. As I said, it took a year of engineering and many small details to ensure that nothing rattles, that there are no contact problems, and it works really smooth now. So, there were many prototypes and 3D prints. But that's exactly what I'm always very proud of my team for. They start with complicated projects, and somehow, after 2 or 3 months, it suddenly becomes straightforward. Cast in one piece, ready to go, and that's a cool story.
Many times that's also a quality indicator when something looks very light, seems very simple, but actually, there's something relatively complex behind it.
We've managed to do that here too.
Is the insertion also easy?
Insertion is also easy. It just goes in, done. And for us, with the Bosch SX systems having only 400 watt-hours, it's not much capacity. There's, of course, the PowerMore range extender from Bosch, which you can theoretically screw onto it. But we think if you really have too little capacity, then you just go ahead and buy a second power pack, put it in your backpack or in the trunk bag, and you can switch it in no time, and it's not a problem at all. As I said, you can mount the bottle cage or the power moor on this cover. These are the markings for the holes at the back, where you position it. It can't be done at the factory because there is a variety of frames. There are women's frames, men's frames, some with a bottle holder for a big bottle or a small one, a frame with a power moor or without a power moor. It's very individual. That's why the dealer decides. They drill the holes and then use a kind of bone as a nut as a counter holder and screw it on.
Okay, so I only decide that when I buy it.
Yes, you decide that when you buy it. Do I want a big bottle or a small bottle? Do I want the bottle holder at the top or further down? With power more or without? That's individual.
What's the maximum here? When you say a big bottle, is that 750 milliliters?
Exactly, it's designed for 750 milliliters. Also in combination with the power more, and this plastic cover can carry the 1.6 kilos. You plug the power more directly into the cable, directly into the charging port where you also usually charge on the bike.
You probably need a relatively short cable for that.
Exactly, that's where the power more goes. And then that's actually the standard version from Bosch.
The Macina Sport, that model has been around in previous years. Now you've used a different material for the frame. Did you also take the opportunity to make some changes to the geometry, or is the geometry identical?
I'm a bit conservative about that. KTM has been making bicycles since 1964. We are well represented in the German market, and whenever I talk to dealers, our field representatives, well, in terms of geometry, they always say, don't change the geometry too much, it's good as it is. Especially in the trekking sector, where we are doing quite well, I don't want to challenge customers with significant changes, making them think, okay, you're making major alterations now, so, if there are any changes, they'll be very subtle.
What, from your perspective, are the other highlights? I mean, we're talking about the SX Prime, the top model in the series.
Well, for that one, we've included everything that's good and expensive. Of course, the Fox Kashima, that's always an eye-catcher. The wheelset from DT Swiss. That's all top-notch. What's very special are the new Magura brakes with fully integrated lines. Here, the cables are guided through the handlebar, through the stem into the fork steerer. So, it's something new, something very clean with these Magura MTI brakes, where we really show what we can do, what we can achieve with our assembly in Mattighofen. The bike is assembled by us, and in this case everything is plugged together. And that's where we have to show our expertise, and of course we want to do so.
This model even comes with a SRAM shifting system.
Exactly. We've opted for the SRAM shifters, the electronic AXS, also directly with the T-type, including the direct attachments with the AXS rear derailleur without the derailleur hanger, like you typically see on mountain bike derailleurs. It's a very robust yet clean mount. It's absolutely the latest technology, what's considered state-of-the-art.
But there will still be models with an aluminium frame in the Sport series, right?
Exactly, that's the Sport Prime, which comes at over 8,000 euros with the carbon frame. That's the showstopper. Then, also with a carbon frame, there's the Sport Elite, which is a reasonable bike in terms of price-performance ratio. Additionally to these two carbon bikes, there are two models with aluminium frames, for which even a low-entry frame is available in this segment. And then, the carbon bikes for the urban area, where you might have to carry the bike up a few stairs. And now you have a lightweight bike that's easy to handle, and doesn't need 85 Newton meters.